What's up, everybody? Welcome to Take No Offense. A couple of old friends who grew up together in central Pennsylvania. Now we live on opposite sides of the country, so this is our chance to get together once a week to share our thoughts on politics, sports, movies, and TV. I'm Eric Messersmith in the Los Angeles area. Brian Johnson is in suburban Washington, D.C. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I know we're going to talk about some serious things like people being murdered on buses, but football is back. I think that's really the most important thing.
Well, I don't know if it's the most important.
Well, I think to a lot of people
Yeah.
that's the most important. I mean, the gladiator sport of football, it's back in action.
We are easily distracted in America. We'll
Really?
get to football. We will talk about it, of
All right.
course. Let's talk about first that the story you brought up, which is this stabbing murder on a bus in Charlotte. It happened late August, but it just became a big story really over the weekend is where I first started to see it because the video was released.
Yeah.
And the video, if you haven't seen it, and if you follow the news at all, you probably have seen at least part of it. It's incredibly graphic. You have a Ukrainian immigrant, 23-year-old woman, gets off a shift at work, goes into the bus, sits in her seat. Everybody kind of in the car that you can see, like four or five people, they're kind of all on their phones and distracted, except the guy right behind her. He had been on there, I guess, for a while. At a certain point, he just gets up and out of nowhere stabs her and she dies. And it became a huge thing online over the weekend with it got picked up by Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk and a bunch of conservative influencers and it went wild on X. Then Trump got wind of it. He talked about it. Today at the White House, I was watching the press briefing with Caroline Levitt. She led with that
Oh,
and
yeah.
specifically talking about an area where I actually kind of agree with her in the administration. I think they're smart to focus on it, which is some of the bail reform measures happening around the country and the cashless bail. This guy had a long criminal history. I believe it was 14 different run ins with the law. He had served almost 5 years in prison, armed robbery. Recent charges were misuse of the 911 system. Apparently, he was meant. I mean, there's no question he was suffering from mental illness. He was calling 911 saying that there was something inside of him that was controlling his actions. This guy, obviously, to do this in the way he did it is clearly mentally ill, and he shouldn't have been on the street. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. But I just think it's interesting that lots of people are murdered, sadly, every day in America. You know, in Chicago alone this year, we're probably going to have around 500 murders. Murders actually down significantly from where it was a few years ago during the pandemic, but it still happens. And the vast majority of those murders, 99%, never get any national media coverage. You never hear about the particulars. You never see any video. This one, though, has ignited a firestorm. What do you think, Brian, is the reason for that? And what is the big picture ramifications of why people care so much about this particular murder?
Well, do you want to have a conversation about this in a constructive way, or do you want to have like the hot take political radio conversation about this? Because
I
those are
prefer
two different
constructive.
ones.
Yeah, I prefer constructive, but I'll settle for the hot take.
Oh,
Whatever you
yeah.
got.
Well, it's much more entertaining. Um, no, I think, look, I think race is at play here. I think some of the topics that people really care about are involved here: mental illness, incarceration, all the things that you can talk about. But when I say talk about this in a constructive way, I love it when you and Charlie talk about how two things can be true at the same time. We incarcerate way too many people in the United States for non-violent crimes and other things. I mean, we have a system that profits from people being incarcerated. I don't think that's disputable. There's a lot of data to back that up. But we also do a terrible job of housing our mentally ill, giving them number one care they should probably have, because where is the money in just taking care of people who are clearly like this guy? I'm not a doctor, but if you have voices telling you things to do, I don't know, that sounds like schizophrenia to me, among other things. Um, I don't think all the money in the world, I don't think incarceration is ever going to take away from homelessness, people with mental health issues, et cetera, down the line. But I mean, I think obviously this is a story that everyone can sink their teeth into because the video exists. like a lot of things. You said 99% of murders are never talked about. Well, 99% of murders aren't caught on video. It's like, I know I led off talking about football, but remember Ray Rice? There was
Yes.
the story came out that Ray Rice had hit his wife, and everyone was like, well, he hit his wife. He obviously shouldn't do that. That's terrible. And then the video came out, and people were like, holy shit, because he punched her in the face. The video, it's always going to be more emotional. It's always going to be more visceral. And for this to be caught on tape, for it to be a black man and a white woman, I mean, that matters.
It does. No question. And I saw a lot of vile racist stuff attached to the posting
On X?
on X. Yeah, I know.
No.
Shocking, right? Just really, yeah. And so, yes, obviously the racist part of it. I think you're right. The biggest part is just having the raw
Having the
video.
video.
But I think in terms of what is important here and what we can learn from it, I think mental health is a major problem in this country. And I know people want to talk about crime and bail reform, and I will talk about that in a second. But let's start here. People who are very mentally ill should not be roaming the streets,
No,
and they are in America. And part of that is because it's hard to involuntarily confine people, maybe a little too
sure.
hard. It used to be too easy, and we talk about the
Right, right.
pendulum
It
all the
goes the
time.
other way.
Right. We had a terrible thing in America where we locked a lot of people up. They
Lobotomies,
did lobotomies. They held people against their will. They were basically tortured and starved. And so we
raped.
saw that and we're like, well, we can't do that anymore, which it's right. But then we went all the way the other way where it became almost impossible to involuntarily confine somebody absent like a criminal indictment
Yeah.
and a court order. So I think that's part of the issue, and part of it is just treatment. I was looking this up today. It's tough to get exact numbers because it kind of varies what source you look at, but the pretty much the consensus is North Carolina is among the worst states for mental health treatment and mental health funding on a per capita basis. So we can't ignore that this guy should have been in treatment. Treatment is expensive, and we as a society, we should make it a priority, I think, to try to pay for those things. In terms of bail, I think the same thing has happened. We had an era of high crime in the 1970s and 80s, and cities and states and that federal government rightly wanted to crack down on that. And we passed things like 3 strikes and you're out, and all kinds of things that led to mass incarceration. And then over time, we looked at those outcomes and said, most of the people that go to prison will get out of prison. They won't die there. And so it's probably not a good idea to lock everybody up for even the smallest, most minor crimes for
Yeah.
long periods of time. So that's probably not the best use of taxpayer dollars and won't lead to the best outcomes. And so we started then in, I think, 2018, 2019, 2020, we got a little crazy with the defund the police movement. You had the George Floyd situation, which was like gas on the
You're being
fire.
very kind.
And so I think what happened is you had a lot of these places that went to cashless bail with very few restrictions. There's restrictions for murder. Obviously, that should not be a cashless bail situation. But they gave the judges discretion to basically do cashless bail for a lot of other crimes. And I think that went too far. Like, I don't love the cash bail system because it allows obviously wealthier people to get out of prison while they're awaiting trial for a crime that a less wealthy person may have to be in prison for. That said, completely scrapping the bail system,
Yeah.
even for people who are repeat violent offenders, doesn't make any sense at all to me. Like the judges, and I'm no expert in this, but I feel like the judges need to really crack down on this. And if there aren't the right laws in place, we need to change the law so they can to make sure that these people don't get out of jail while they're awaiting trial if they are a multiple time serious violent offender.
I also look. I don't want to be hard on the judges either. It's a very difficult job, and it really depends on where you're a judge and what type of criminality you're dealing with, and what your prison system looks like in your particular area. But I also think there are cases like this one where it's pretty obvious. What's the saying? Like, I don't know what porn is, but I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
Like, this seems like a guy that if he's standing in front of you would go, you know what? We're probably less safe with him out and about than if he was
Right.
behind bars. I and look, I'm Monday morning quarterbacking, and I know
Yeah.
this judge probably sees a lot of people. It's tough. I mean, I've worked in the criminal justice system, man. It's not easy. There's a lot of court going on, a lot of people going in and out of jail. It's
Yeah.
big. It's like turning the Titanic.
I
But
just think
again, I think that's the tough part. Is this just seems like such an obvious one.
right. I think when the rap sheet gets to a certain length, there has to be some level of discretion from the judge. And if necessary, maybe we take it out of the judge's hands and we say, look, at a certain level, bail is just going to be mandatory. Like you will have to stay, especially if there's a mental health issue, because we can't let these people out on the street and take that kind of chance. And again, I am all for rehabilitation. And I think we need to have drug treatment and mental health and especially for low level offenses and first time offenders and drug offenses. But that's not what we're talking about here.
I don't even mean to make a joke of this, but just imagine that Sean Puff Daddy Combs of rap fame, who did some not great things, obviously, not ideal, is in a prison in Brooklyn right now. Now, I ask you, how much of a real danger is he to society if he was let out? I'm not saying he's a great guy. I'm not saying he's a wonderful person. I'm just saying he wouldn't murder someone on a bus.
Probably not. No, he might have a freak off though.
Well, hey, consenting adults enjoying the freak offs, that's a nuanced one. But you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like I'm talking about violent offenders, people
Right.
with violent tendencies. Those are the ones who, as a citizen and as a father and a husband, scare me the most. I don't look, I know people make jokes about it all the time. I know when someone commits fraud and there's millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars in stake, it's a terrible crime. But the thing is, it's nonviolent. It's very different.
It is, but you also don't want to let nonviolent offenders totally off the hook because sometimes
I get it. It's nuanced, man, but you get what I'm saying.
I do.
It's why it's such an easy argument.
What did you think about? Let's switch gears here. Let's talk about the Jeffrey Epstein situation. So you and I spent a lot of time on this, and then there's a new development yesterday. The House Oversight Committee is doing an investigation, and the Epstein estate turned over a bunch of documents, and among them was the infamous birthday book for Epstein's 50th birthday. The Wall Street Journal, of course, had reported that Trump wrote a letter with inside the drawing of a naked woman that said some weird things about secrets and was signed by Trump. Trump said he never wrote that, and he actually sued the Wall Street Journal because of the story. Well, I don't think it's going to go well because we actually saw the birthday book, a picture of it that House Oversight Democrats put out, and sure enough, it's the words the Wall Street Journal reported inside a crude drawing of a naked woman with the signature of
what
Donald.
A surprise. Journalism, actual journalism.
And if you look at his signature on that, and several media outlets have posted similar signatures from that time, it matches almost perfectly. Now, Trump continues to deny that he ever made the drawing or that he ever signed it. Yeah. It's like at this point,
he lives on a different planet,
how does anyone believe that he has any credibility?
Well, he doesn't have any credibility.
No.
But I also don't think at this point it really matters. I think it's pretty clear that he and Jeffrey Epstein were friendly, that they got along. I also think it's pretty clear that Trump wasn't raping minors. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein is a horrible human being. He's dead. Trump is one of the... I mean, dude, he lies almost in a way that, again, not a doctor.
It's pathological.
It's kind of crazy.
It really is.
I don't even understand why he would deny it from the perspective of he could just be like, yeah, that was a long time ago.
Right. I was friendly. Right.
I was
friendly with him. Right. Or you could even say something like, you know what? I don't recall doing that, but I did write letters for birthday messages for friends. Of course. So it's possible that I did it and just don't remember.
Do you think I remember letters I wrote 30 years ago? For the love of God, no, I don't remember. But I also it's so it's just a playbook for him to just lie. And the reason he does it though is because of what I'm just going to say. I don't care.
People don't care. Right. And his supporters certainly don't care. The thing about it is his lying that's always amazed me is how brazen it is. Like,
it's terrible.
Politicians lying is not a new thing.
No, God.
But Trump takes it to another level because of how brazen it is. And also, the way that you know someone is a pathological liar is when they lie about things they don't even have to lie about.
Right, well,
Like
that's what I'm saying.
when they lie about little things, insignificant things, things that actually, if you just told the truth, would make you look good, but you exaggerate it even more, even though the truth would be fine for you. And Trump does all of those things, which does. I mean, again, as you say, we're not psychologists, but clearly there is a pathology of some
Yeah.
time going on there. What I wanted, but this story's not going to go away because of
No.
things like this. First of all, people don't trust that Trump tells the truth, and I don't blame them.
Well,
Secondly, still as we sit here, the FBI, the Justice Department, has not released the files. They've released other things. They put out a big release the other day, but 90 some percent of it was already public information, and they didn't release the files they have. And they could redact the names and release it, and they refuse to do it. And as long as that remains the case, this story is not going to go away, even though Trump keeps claiming it's a hoax. And it was really shameful the
a
other day.
hoax. I mean, come on.
Right. That's what he says. It's a Democrat hoax. And he said that last week at the White House, literally at the same time that at the Capitol, the victims of Epstein were all together and speaking out for the first time ever at a press conference. And they were imploring the president. Even I never thought I'd say this on the program. I give Marjorie Taylor Greene a lot of credit. I've actually agreed with her on a few things
I almost
lately.
passed out.
I know. She was there leading the charge on this. And she said, I said to Donald Trump, meet with these women in the White House. And the reporter asked her, what did Trump say? And she said, well, I haven't been able to reach him yet, or something like that. Like, you remember when the Afghanistan situation happened, which a terrible tragedy, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, debacle, Americans died. Trump was obviously very quick to meet with those family members. And look, I'm not saying he did that for political reasons. I'm sure that he did care about those people and those families. They suffered a horrible loss, but the politics was good for him as well.
Yeah.
This situation, where clearly the politics is bad for him, he appears to have no interest in meeting with the Epstein victims.
It's so easy. Like, dude, I am just a guy who lives in the world. But, like, wouldn't any advisor just go to him and say, just make Jeffrey Epstein an absolute monster? Just say, like, he was a rich guy. I knew him. We were friendly. It doesn't mean you were best friends holding hands going down the beach. Like, yes, a lot of famous, wealthy people hang out in the same circles, but they don't know what's going on all the time. Maybe Trump did know that, like, he liked young girls. So what? That doesn't mean he participated in some type of prostitution or he was like helping. And no, I mean, dude, I think any reasonable person would get this. I think my greatest criticism of politicians historically has always been that they don't give the American public enough credit to take in and absorb information. It was my criticism of Clinton with Monica Lewinsky. Like, he could have just been like, you know what, I fucked up. But instead of that, he made it a whole thing. And the thing he actually got impeached for was lying.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
it's not the crime, it's the cover up. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like, how has Trump and the team around him not learned from this? It's like you could paint Epstein as an absolute monster and everyone would go, okay.
Well, and you could meet with the women.
What's wrong with that?
You could order the FBI, the Justice Department, to release everything they have, and here's why. Again, do I think most likely there's evidence he committed a crime? No, because I think the Biden administration, it would have leaked out.
Of course.
But that said, his actions, and I said this a few months ago, what he wrote in that birthday message, which I think we can say now is pretty clear he did write it. The fact that he won't release this information, the reason he recoils every time it's brought up, it makes you think there is something there. I'm not saying criminality, but it makes you think there is something there that is maybe potentially very embarrassing for him. And because there's no other great explanation that I can think of as to why he is acting the way he's acting, when you are making, I think, a pretty obvious point that there's a way that he could have handled this so much better. And the fact that he isn't doing those things, even despite, by the way, now pretty intense pressure, media scrutiny, even from some parts of his own base, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, he's even in the face of that, it does make you think there's something here. I'm not saying it's criminality, but there's something here that he doesn't want out. What other connection could you draw from this
So
or
here's my
conclusion?
thing. The conclusion that I seriously, and I really believe this, is that Donald Trump, by all measure, is a very successful person. Yes, there's some nuance there. He's had some ups and downs, but he's the twice elected president of the United States. So and I only say that to say the problem with successful people a lot of the time is they get to a point in their life where they're used to doing things one way because that's the way they've always done it and it's been effective. And they refuse to adapt and change because what information do they have at their disposal that tells them that changing their behavior would be different? So if you have become president by being a pathological liar, by denying and pointing the finger the other way and doing what Trump has done his entire life, why would Trump change now? That's my fault
Yeah.
for
No, you're
believing
right.
that he could be reasoned with because he's going to look at me and say, buddy, I have my own jet with my name on the side of it. I own 67 properties. I'm married to a supermodel. I'm the president of the United States. I'm just going to do it my way. I
That's true.
really think that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, that's his favorite song, right? Or one of his favorite songs, My Way, Frank Sinatra. So it's kind of fitting. But in terms of politics, Brian, I wanted to get this story a couple weeks ago. We didn't have time. So I want to make time for it today. Part
Woohoo!
of what the Democrats are doing with their rebranding and their messaging as they're out of power is, I think, smartly looking at how they can appeal to voters better. And one of the things they've done, a group called Third Way has recommended to them that Democratic candidates, elected officials, not use the following terms: privilege, dialoguing, triggering, othering, microaggression, holding space, body shaming, subverting norms, systems of oppression, cultural appropriation,
Mm.
existential threat to the climate, democracy, the economy,
Well,
radical transparency, stakeholders, the unhoused, food insecurity, housing insecurity, person who immigrated, birthing person, cisgender, dead naming, heteronormative, patriarchy, LGBTQIA
yeah,
plus,
I agree with that one.
allyship, incarcerated people, involuntary confinement. Um,
That's a
I
yeah,
I really like this, and the reason I like it is for a couple of reasons. First of all, a lot of these words are really stupid, and
yeah,
they're like nails on the chalkboard,
they are.
even to someone like me who lately leans to the Democratic side. And they're also, by and large,
Would you say
not
they're
how people
triggering?
talk. Right. They're by and large not how people talk. Like I have never had a conversation, I don't think, where someone has used the words radical transparency to me. I've not heard.
That sounds made up.
I've heard of the term microaggression, but
Yes.
I've never heard of people use that term in
Really?
day to day talk. And so other than maybe like at an HR seminar
Yeah.
at your workplace. So I think this is good for Democrats because look, ideas are the most important thing. That's what we should care about. But in order to get your ideas, in order to control government, actually have power, you have got to win. And in
Yeah,
order
you
to
got to win.
win, you got to communicate. And you got to communicate in a way that can relate to normal people, the vast majority of people, not some, PhD person in race relations who's going for their doctorate. You have to be able to talk to the average person. And that's one thing, like it, love him or hate him, that Trump can do. And Democrats, so I always say this, like, yes, you can blame Trump as much as you want for all the crazy shit he does and all the kind of authoritarian, the borderline, if not full blown authoritarian path he's leading us down. But at the end of the day, the reason he is where he is in large part because you, the Democrats, fucked it up. You fumbled the bag when you had power. And part of the reason is because of policy, immigration, other things. But part of it is because the way you talked and communicated to people, you lost them. And they were like, they looked at you and they listened to you and they said, I'll take the crazy orange guy.
Yeah.
That's an indictment.
It is. I think I've probably told this story to you before, but I don't know if I've said it on the podcast. But maybe like 15 years ago, I had a friend of mine who was a lawyer in Atlanta, and we got together, and it was very clear that like the crowd was like super liberal, which is fine. I mean, I'm a liberal Democrat. Everyone who's listened to this knows I've, well, except for governor of Maryland, I've never voted for a Republican.
Larry
Um,
Hogan, baby.
yeah, I love Larry Hogan. I miss him, but Westmore's doing a good job. I digress. The point of my story is that we were talking about illegal immigration. And during the conversation, I used the phrase illegals. And a woman jumped down my throat, like seriously, like angry at me because I was dehumanizing people by referring to them as illegals. And I remember very specifically saying, like, fine, I can correct my speech. I didn't mean to dehumanize anyone, but you're really getting away from the focus of the conversation that we're having. Like now you're angry about my speech and what I'm saying about something that we're talking about rather than the actual issues that are at hand. And like it's a great tactic. Like I
Yeah.
understand it. So I'm stupid because I use the wrong word, and now my opinion on the subject is less valuable than your opinion on this. I didn't think that was fair at the time, and I think that's what this list is really about. I think
Yes.
clearly for anyone who would know me or be friends with me knows I don't want to dehumanize anyone. If I slip up in my speech or something that I'm saying that's improper, it's not, I don't mean to hurt anyone with that. I want to, talk about the subject in an educated way. And I don't even mind being corrected, but it's the way in which I was corrected during that
Well, and
thing.
also you weren't wrong. It wasn't dehumanizing. Immigrants, some of them are here illegally.
Yes, right.
They are, so by definition, they are an immigrant here illegally. It
Right.
is not crazy then to call them an illegal immigrant,
Well, I
right?
said
If you,
illegals.
well, okay,
I shortened it.
maybe you should have said illegal, but she would have been mad about illegal immigrant because
Yeah,
I
of
see the
course.
signs here where I live in Santa Monica. No human is illegal. It's like, do you want to win or do you want to be, I'm asking this of the collective you,
Yeah.
Democrats specifically, do you want to win or do you want to feel morally superior to people? Do you want to
I
be
think a lot of people, honest to God, it is the latter, which is
right?
one of the large problems that I think, to get back to what we're talking about here, the Democrats have. Because
Yes,
no one wants to feel stupid. No
yes,
one wants to feel like their opinion doesn't matter or they don't count. And I mean, look, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but obviously, if you're trying to communicate to someone, you need to communicate to them in a way that they would understand. And
right,
just because, to your point, they're not a professor in, whatever, and they don't speak the way that you do, their vote counts exactly the same. So
right.
reaching out to the other side, I mean, I do think fundamentally that human beings are decent. I think that's one thing that gets lost. Is like, look, man, we don't have to have this conversation on the show. I don't really understand transgender stuff. I've tried. To me, it's just weird. But I'll listen. I'll hear you out. But if you want to have a penis and play volleyball, I got to draw a line.
Right, you got to
At
draw a line
some
somewhere.
point, there's a line in the sand. And
Right.
it's because they take it past the line. Like you could talk to me about someone being transgender, and I will listen and understand, and I will have compassion for those people. But when you say, no, this person with a male genitalia is a girl, that's where you lose me. And I'm only using that as a metaphor for the entire thing that we're talking about here.
Right.
That,
And you got to have a big tent to bring people
yes.
along. And that's the thing because look, Trump is cutting Medicaid and we get it for tax cuts for the rich and running kind of roughshod over some of our constitutional norms. And you've got all of these crazy things. But in order to win, you have to allow people in your coalition who might not be comfortable with the term birthing person and
Well, that's
might
what I'm
think
saying.
that only women have babies or might not want to add the QIA plus after LGBT. Like it's okay. Okay.
Right.
And I think Democrats are learning that lesson because of the fact that they're out of power. And I think they're going to be in 2026 and 2028 so desperate to get back into power that at least for now, I think they will hopefully put some of that crazy stuff behind them from the past.
It
All right,
was
Brian.
much needed. That's one thing we do agree on,
Absolutely.
actually. Like, I don't mind because a lot of this stuff had run amok.
Oh my
So
God, it did. They lost their minds, the Democrats, in 2019 and 2020, in before and then during the early parts of COVID, and
yeah,
they paid the price for that, I think, in
yeah,
2024, and kind of still are to this day.
yeah.
All right, Brian, turn to the world of sports. What did you
Woohoo!
make of the start of the NFL season? I mean, go wherever you'd like. I mean, the Bills Ravens game Sunday night was one of the best regular season games I've
Monday
ever
Night
seen.
Football.
Absolutely unbelievable.
The
Yeah,
one
good
thing
one on Monday
I
too.
did want to ask you, you're on the West Coast. Did you see the end of Monday Night Football and the end of Bills Ravens?
So no on Monday Night Football. I did on Bills Ravens. I
Yeah.
recorded in the second half, and I said, well, if the game ends up being close, I'll watch the end of it because at that point the Ravens were kind of in control. I saw the final score and I was like, holy shit, what happened? So I went back and
Went back
watched
and
it,
watched it.
and
See, that's
it
the
was
advantage of being
incredible.
on the West Coast with 10 a.m.
Yes,
kickoffs. And the
yes,
night games start at like 5 p.m. for you.
yeah. I
On
don't
the
have to
East
stay
Coast,
up late.
the reason I asked that question is because during both Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, I fell asleep.
Of course you did.
And they were both like great comebacks. So I
Yeah,
just wanted to start with that, which is funny. Just that there, you know, those were two of the better games of the weekend. But I actually think the best game of the weekend after Bills Ravens was our Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York
yes,
Jets. That had the lowest total points by Vegas standards before the game. I think it was 37 and a half for a combined total, and they scored 66. I think the story of Rodgers coming back to the Jets, obviously that didn't really work out there. But both the Steelers looking dynamic on offense, where they haven't for a long time, and on the other side, Justin Fields looking very comfortable in New York. I think both of those teams, they could have some pretty good seasons, which I mean, there are so places to go. There's that story. There's the Lions getting their ass kicked.
yeah.
There's the Dolphins who looked terrible. There's Daniel Jones being the only quarterback after like Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady to lead their team to a score on every possession. Just fantastic. The Browns browning again by missing the field goal. Dude, I loved week one. I love the NFL. I look forward to it every week. It's a great sport because it's so competitive. Most
Yeah.
of the games are close. The athleticism is just off the charts. The quarterback play is phenomenal. It just all of that to say, like, I know there's a lot of fans of college football for a lot of reasons, but the NFL is so much better than college
Oh,
football.
and not just college football. It's so much better than any other sport, I think, right now.
Almost.
And it's so much better than I think it's the single best entertainment product in America right now. I mean,
I
look at
agree.
the ratings last year. 72 of the top 100 TV shows in 2024 were NFL football games.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And it's so entertaining, and there's a lot of reasons for it, but part of it is the margins are so
So
slim.
small.
And week to week, anything can happen. And they made a lot of changes to the game. Not all of them I've loved. I think the kickoff is still kind of was weird and
It is
gimmicky. I
weird.
think they should just get rid of it. Some of the like the blockings and the hits they've taken out of the game, I think they've gone too far. But by and large, it still is. It retains the essence of everything we love about athletics
Yeah.
and entertainment in America. And I was so excited to have it back, and also so excited that our Steelers. The defense has to clean up some things, particularly against the run. The O line struggled a little bit, but Aaron Rodgers looked. I always said my take on Aaron Rodgers was if he's the Aaron Rodgers we saw last year with the Jets, the Steelers are going to, or close to that. The Steelers will be like 8-9, 9-8. If he's 80% of the Aaron Rodgers of 2021, they could be a 10, 11, 12 win team. And I'll tell you, it's only been 1 week. I don't want to overreact, but he looks like the kind of guy that's 80% of that 2021 Aaron Rodgers
But the weapons
because
he has.
right, he's got weapons and but he didn't have good pass protection. And hopefully that will get better, but he still overcame that and played really well.
Yeah, I think, I don't want to make this the Steelers hour, but just I mentioned the weapons they have. I mean, they have three incredible tight ends. Washington's 8 feet tall. Johnu Smith is amazing. Fryermuth is a beast. They got DK Metcalf on the
Yeah.
outside.
Austin played
Austin is
well.
really good. Um, I mean, look, I think asking Aaron Rodgers to be 2021 Aaron Rodgers is a bit too much.
No, I said
I think
80%.
I know you
Be
said 80%.
80%.
That's what I was going to come back to because he's still coming off an Achilles, but we know he's fully healed now. And
Yes.
just like Peyton Manning was when he was with the Broncos, not the very end, but
Right.
towards the end. If you can get that production, like he still has a good enough arm, but his football IQ is just off the charts.
It is.
The one thing about football that I really wanted to talk to you about, I don't know why this came into my mind, but was about I was reading about a guy who was having off the field issues. And I just thought how hilarious that was in 2025. Like this expectation that these people are going to play one of the most violent sports that possibly exist in modern times, and they're all going to be choir boys, is hilarious to me. Like, and my question was, don't you want some people on your team that are a little crazy?
Yes.
That might have
of course.
off the field issues?
Well, it depends what they are. But Jerry Jones said this during the documentary, the Cowboys that we both like so much. Basically, similar to what you just said, and that in order to play the game at a high level, many of those players, that translates over to your personal life as well. Because how can it not, right? For a lot of people, the violence necessary there is going to show up in other areas. Now, there is a line, of course, and when you cross that line, you can't be involved. You've got to be suspended or out of the league.
Yeah.
But to some degree, a little bit of issue in your personal life here or there, I think, that's something that kind of goes with the territory given the job they have.
Well, I was thinking in particular about the Steelers, like they had Big Ben. Obviously, he had some off the field issues. He was also 7 feet tall and had a laser beam for an arm and was great. So I was willing to overlook it.
Well, and to be fair to Ben, I believe never charged with a crime.
That's fair, but we agree that there were some things going on.
Yes,
but it made me think about Aaron Rodgers, like the anti-vaccine stuff, the pseudo-intellectualism.
Right.
Like, he's no longer
doing his own research on the COVID vaccine,
doing research, etc. And when he was with the Jets and he was with Green Bay, I was like, I don't really like this Aaron Rodgers guy with all this stuff going on. Now that he plays for the Steelers, I'm like, say whatever you want. Vaccines, yes. Whatever. I'll tell you what, man, keep throwing 4 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions every weekend, and I will listen to anything you have to say, Aaron Rodgers. And I just think it's so funny how that works in sports.
Yeah, you're right. Well, look, he's on pace for 68 touchdowns and no interceptions. So
if he keeps that pace, he can do whatever he wants.
Absolutely.
And as you said, within reason.
Within reason. What did you make of the Philly Karen situation? This Phillies fan at a game in Miami, who I think everybody's probably seen this video, went over after a home run ball was fought for and berated the gentleman who got the ball and who had given it to his young son. He finally relented, took the ball out of the son's mitt and gave it to this woman, who has since been dragged all over the social media.
I think the interesting conversation to have here, and one of the things I've seen on my social media, is a lot of men saying what they would have done. Like, there's a lot of men saying, oh, I would have never given her that baseball.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so I pose the question to you. And I know these hypothetical situations are tough. How would you react? I mean, the truth is we never really know how we would react. But now that you have all the information, you're at a game with Max. You get a foul ball and you put it in Max's glove, and Crazy Karen comes over to try and get that ball. What does Eric Messersmith do?
I didn't see, you couldn't really see exactly what happened, right? If I had ripped the ball out of her hand.
That's not what happened. The ball was never in her hand.
It didn't look like it was ever in her hand. So assuming that's true, which I think is probably the case, it's fair game. Right? Yeah. You know this. At a baseball game, it's fair game. Until someone has secure possession, it's like the NFL. Until you have secure possession, it's fair game. So assuming that to be the case, there's no chance I would have given her that ball back. I would have been polite. I would have tried to de-escalate the situation, but I would have told her politely to stick it where the sun don't shine and to just go back and sit down. There's no way I give her that ball back because I'm not taking the ball from my son. But even beyond that, it's the principle of the thing. I am just not rewarding that behavior. I will not do it. I will not reward that behavior.
So this is the way I answered the question. I have two kids, one who's almost 14 and one who's 9. So if I go over and I get that ball fair and square, and I come over and I put the ball in Sebastian's glove, who's my 14-year-old, and crazy Karen comes over and taps me on the shoulder and starts screaming at me, I might just be like, you know what? If you really want it this bad, fine. Like, you can have the ball. Because in that situation, I probably am going to try and avoid the conversation. Because my 14-year-old, I don't want to like really show him that, like, sometimes avoiding the confrontation is the best way to go about it. But here's the
Sometimes.
thing. No, but I'm saying, but hear me out here. Now, same thing happens. I get the ball and I hand it to my 9-year-old son. And that woman comes over. I'm telling you definitively, there's a 0.0% chance he gets that ball. Right. I would have told her in no uncertain terms, and I don't even mean this as a joke, and Trisha is going to hate this, but she's heard me say this in real life to women when they are acting like this. I ask them where their husband is. And they never like that. Because here's the thing. I'm not going to physically, my hands are going to be above my waist, and I'm going to talk to her, and I'm going to defend myself, but I'm never going to put my hands on her. But I really need to speak to a human being that I can punch in the face. So please bring them over here so we can have now a male conversation about this in a reasonable way. And I know that sounds terrible, but it's something I have said in real life.
You have, and how have they gotten their husbands at that point, or no? Or,
no, because do they have a husband? Because the husbands are embarrassed,
as they should. I
mean, and look, I don't want to say it's happened often because it hasn't, but it's typically, and Trisha knows this. A lot of times, it's when someone starts like really being aggressive towards my wife, and they don't know I'm there. Because you know me, dude, I kind of wander around. I'm off in my own little world, but like I've had it happen with men, especially where they're getting very aggressive towards my wife. And then I'm like, hey, buddy. And then they like get scared and like roll away. But I'm trying to remember. I can't recall any specific situations, but like, look, people are angry. They're upset. They got a lot going on in their lives. I understand that. But at the same time, my point being is I want to de-escalate the situation. And I feel like a lot of time just engaging the person, male or female, in a conversation, they normally do come down to a level where like you can have a reasonable conversation about it. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting because I honestly don't know what I would have done. I think there are two scenarios. One in which I do give her the baseball because I'm there with my older kid and he doesn't care. Yeah. And then one where I'm with my younger son who's 9, who's like 4 foot tall, who is going to be really excited he had a baseball.
Yeah.
One of the things I have enjoyed, though, is a lot of people posting videos because everyone knows this is etiquette. I'm at a baseball game. I catch a foul ball. What's the first thing I do? I give it to a kid.
Yes, absolutely. Not take it away from a kid. Oh, not take it away from a kid.
No, I don't care, but I love those videos. My family, we were at a game in Pittsburgh 2 years ago, and we were sitting in seats where we were very close to the foul line. And Sebastian actually got 2 foul balls.
Nice.
And then they gave him a 3rd foul ball, and my son, on his own, gave it to another little kid.
Oh, that's
because
great.
Like even he knows like this is ridiculous.
Apparently, Philly Karen does not know that. She never learned that lesson.
Yeah, an 11-year-old knows that, but not a middle-aged woman. It's her, dude. Her behavior. Did you see the part where they were showing her on the video screen and she was flipping everybody off?
Yes, it just shows you the kind of. I mean, the character of a person like that. If somebody does something like that, that is a window. I hate to say that because there are exceptions to that where I think sometimes people do get out of character just for a moment, and we shouldn't judge their whole.
Everyone makes mistakes.
But in this case,
they go to a Coldplay concert. Whatever.
Right. But in this case, the fact that she went all the way over there, saw the boy had it, and had the dad take it out of the boy's glove, that is a window into your character. I'm sorry. So
the look on the dad's face when he got tapped on the shoulder, I got to admit, is kind of crazy.
It startled the hell out of him. Right. Yeah, you can see it. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't look. The dad was in a tough spot,
dude. So I think he did the right thing.
I don't want to be too hard on him, but it wasn't a great reflection of his manhood.
No,
just
See,
the
but that's what I'm
quivering
saying.
and then the reaching and taking it from your son, rather than just saying, you know what, you are a crazy bitch, and I am not giving you this baseball.
I
Now,
understand your position, dude, but but that's why I think that is actually the thing to talk about. Is we're questioning the guy's manhood because he avoided confrontation with an older woman.
oh, she wasn't
His
that old.
reaction to being tapped on the shoulder, I got to say, not a great look.
But he was scared. To be fair, he was startled. You know,
I've
so
never been
we've
startled
all
by
been
someone
there.
tapping me on the shoulder.
No, he was definitely did
I think I had
not
to be like,
mess
all
around.
right, like, you know.
All right, Brian. We need to go. It's that
Why?
time. My son is here, and
Oh,
I want
all
to make
right.
sure that
Say hi to Max for me.
we don't have any drop-ins on the video. So let me ask you this, though. I will give you a chance. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
The potential takeover of major cities. I mentioned Westmore earlier in the show, in the great state of Maryland that I live in. Actually going on, I wish I could remember the show, but actually saying he was not against more federal support in the city of Baltimore. He was talking about how funding had been cut by millions of dollars for
Right. I
DEA and
saw that.
FBI and everything else, and he was like, "I welcome the help.
Yes.
I want it. I wouldn't like it in the form of the National Guard. They might not be
Yes.
the best fit to try and solve what we got here in Baltimore." And that's why I said I loved Westmore because he was doing a great thing by saying like, no, like, and to be fair to the city of Baltimore and Maryland in general, they have problems and they are many in that city and they realize it and they have made a lot of effort to try and improve Baltimore City and they have made progress
Yes.
in that area. So I just really love what Westmore had to say.
Yeah, the murder
And
numbers are way down in Baltimore, way down.
yeah, yeah.
And I think
So
that's a credit to them. But no, I think Westmore showed Democrats the way because
yes,
one of the things is Trump's behavior with the National Guard and threatening it into cities. It puts Democrats in a tough position because when they oppose it, which I think is the right thing to do, it makes it look like you're soft on crime. And Trump loves that fight, and that's why he picks that fight. But the argument is exactly what Westmore said. It said
yes,
it's okay, you want to help us, Donald Trump? Then actually fund the things that will help us.
yes,
FBI agents, DEA agents, what I talked about earlier, like with the guy in North Carolina, mental health
yeah,
services. How about after school programs, things that have been shown to reduce violent crime in urban areas? We want that help. We welcome that help.
yeah.
Give
Please,
that to us, but not the militarized National Guard, which, as we know, as you and I have talked about it at length, is not built for and not trained for civilian and constitutionally barred from
yeah,
civilian law enforcement and should only be used in extreme emergency situations, not just because of the random regular
political whims.
crime,
All
right?
right.
Political whims and crime that happens in cities around this country. All right, Brian, good show today. We'll touch on some other things when we get together again next week. We should be good now after we got the Labor Day holiday over. So we got the fall now. We'll be back with you every week. Make sure you like and subscribe. For Brian Johnson, I'm Eric Messersmith. Thanks for being with us. We hope you enjoyed the show, but if not, please take no offense.